hit record so that I don't kick myself later and have to do a second and third class because of technology issues. Ugh. So I have like this check off list. Check, 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 check. So do you know how to make cording?
I've only watched people make it. I've never actually done it myself.
Okay. And what is stopping you from trying it out?
Well, I actually haven't had a real purpose for doing
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
You haven't done anything yet, so
Well, not exactly. I mean, I've got about 4 pillows to make. And
oh,
one of the things with pillows that I want to do is I want to do cording. And usually what I do is I go and buy the stuff already made.
yep,
But but I really would really like to, be able to do it myself.
right.
That's one thing. I would just like to be able to do it. And then I think it would match better because the
Oh
pillows
yeah.
that are, I've looked for the cording for them that I just think it would, I don't know, the colors just
They're
don't
never
seem
quite right. They're
exactly.
never quite right. It's always too thick or too thin, and so it doesn't work. So I've been too busy to make the cording video that I had said I was going to make. So I'm making that tomorrow because I have a bunch of cording to make for all of these classes coming up. And it's gonna be a free one that you can watch
Oh,
anytime. And it's gonna show how to use a drill or how to use, just by hand. But when I do pillows, which basically I'm gonna do that because I'm going to be doing stocking cording. And it's the same thing. You got to make really long strand, long lengths of it. And it just works better when you use a drill because you're doing such a long piece and it just aligns them better for some reason. So we'll definitely make sure I'll post it on there. So when I do ornaments, um, a lot of people will, okay, you open up your skein. They'll open up the skein and they'll take this piece, what is this? What am I working with? I don't think it had a tag on it, or did I
I
already
think
dump it?
it looks like Planet Earth, maybe your pepper pot.
It is Vineyard Silk Shimmer,
Okay.
and so you're close. And they'll take a strand and they'll sit there and unwind it. That's too long. It takes too long for an ornament size, which is what we're doing, just like a 5 by 5 by 5. I know that this, when I cut it, is going to be, so I've just now cut that in half. This is 36 inches. So when they wind this, it's an 18-inch wind around and around at the factory. So now this is 36 inches. I know that when I twist this down, and I'm going to do 10 strands for one, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I'm going to do 10 strands. And this stuff does not like to separate. I don't know if you've ever used this just to stitch with, but when I'm trying to pull this apart to do this, sometimes I get really, really annoyed because it just does not want to relinquish. And I know that when I do 10, a set of 10 and 10, it's going to give me 28 inches of twisted cord. Even though these pieces are 36 inches, the compression rate, all right, I'm just going to start peeling off a couple at a time because we'll be here all night with me just doing the cording. I like to get all of that kind of stuff prepped, you know, before I get started. And in the past, I haven't always made the cording when I was doing these videos, but it's like, you know what, I'll take the 15, maybe 20 minutes tops if with struggling like this. 3, 6, 7, 8. Because not everybody has seen it, and why not? Let's just do it. So pearl cotton is the same way. It gives us the same 18-inch. When you do, say, silk and ivory, which is really puffy, you're not going to use as many to get a thinner cord because it's just so thick. So when you retwist it, wow. When you twist it, it just is way too thick. Sorry about this, guys. I really didn't think it was going to prove my point quite so much as to what a pain it is, but naturally it does.
Are there reasons, like, when you're choosing which fiber to use for cording,
Yep.
is it just what matches? Like, how, like, what would you, like, is there certain reasons you would choose, like,
So
silk
this,
cotton over vineyard silk?
so typically it is because of color.
Okay.
It's just like the fabric where, you know, they're like, oh, what's the best to use? The right color.
Yep.
It's just because it's so hard to find. There are colors go in cycles that you can find at Joann's or wherever you are able to get. That's 5. And so this kind of matched the edging of this bag, the stitch piece, and it had a little bit of sparkle. And so I thought, oh, we'll do something a little different from pearl cotton. Regretting that decision at the moment because pearl cotton's much easier to separate, because then I have to go and I kind of have to smooth all this down before we twist, and it catches on itself. Do they even make shimmer anymore?
I haven't, I don't know if I've only been needlepointing a few years, but I don't think I've ever seen vineyard silk shimmer.
Yeah, I think it's actually not something you can get anymore. 5, that's 8, 9, 10, and for really obvious reasons. This one is the other one I was going to use, and it is Vineyard Silk Shimmer as well, but it's a different variety because it's really thin. And it twirls up even worse. And so I thought, well, yeah, let's play it safe. Ha ha ha. Sure, play it safe. So now we have our 2 colors bundled together. All right. And we're going to take the ends and put them together like this. And I usually put them towards me, hang them off the edge, because now I'm going to use a piece of fishing line, and I just make the loop See, I'm afraid if I bring it too far over, it's going to really start to shift the brightness for you guys. So I apologize. If I'm too far off camera, just give me a shout. So we're going to knot that. And now we're going to do a second knot. And I'm going to trim up all of those dangly parts there. Kind of foof it. That's a very technical term, foofing it. And now I'm taking the tip and I'm bringing it and putting it deep into right kind of near where the fishing line is inside, and I'm putting a little dollop of glue. And then I'm just pushing a little dollop of very gently on my glue gun and kind of smearing all those up using the tip. Now, let me see if I was smart and grabbed my paddle pliers. I did not. So inside my needle nose pliers, there's some flat area. I'm going to use that to compress this nice and flat. I'm doing that for you guys. I can do it to myself because I have like asbestos fingers, but I don't want you to use them and burn yourself. You can also do it by using, I have another vise that I use, and a lot of times you can just open this once you glue it, open it up, stick it in there while the glue's still hot and press it down, and you're already a step ahead because now it's in the vise and ready to go. But I started doing this because of the vise that I'm about to show you is a fly tying vise, and it has a very small opening, and so it made it fit down in there better. But also, then, happy accident, it made it so that when you push it in between where you want to get it into, it's already got a point, it's got smooth sides, and it just slides in by using your doll needle to push it in nicer. So let's, okay, get ready for a little nausea as I move the camera around. So I'm going to put this in my fly tying vise, and this is how you clamp it down. There's a little lever on the back here. Let me see. Ooh, I gotta move it back a little. I have my, I sit in a big U-shaped table, and it's a little bit longer. Okay, so I'm gonna smooth this. Okay. Wow. Gonna make you guys motion sick. And you smooth it all the way to the end. All right. And then, I do this every time. It's ridiculous. Get 3 pieces of tape ready before you do your smoothing. I just showed you what not to do. All right. And I can see that a couple of the pieces are kind of look a little short in there. So just make sure that when you're putting this on, that you're putting the tape on low enough to encompass all of those little bits that might be down in, because some of them were a little short. All right, and we put the tape, put it on at the top of the piece, and you rotate to the right or clockwise. You're going to be turning to the right. And here's why. So you can do it, turn this one to the right, turn this one to the right, and then they turn them back on themselves to the left. And you'll see what I mean in a second. But you could also turn this to the left, counterclockwise, and then this one counterclockwise, and then put them together and turn them back to the right. The problem is, with pearl cotton, you would be fighting the way it was manufactured. Kreinik doesn't care which way you turn it initially, but pearl cotton and the majority of the other ones do not like to be turned left and then the other one left and then they go back right. You'll see that all of a sudden it looks just messy and it just isn't tight like what we're going to get. So we start turning this with my fingers and we're turning it to the right. We're turning it clockwise. Sorry, my hands are really dry and this fiber sucks the moisture right out of your skin. Big time. Okay. And we just keep going. I find for when I'm doing the smaller cording, I feel that the drill is a little cumbersome for me to handle. Whereas, okay, so I'm grabbing on to the vise and I'm holding on to it. So when I do this part, I'm going to pull it to the right and stretch those fibers out. I am keeping this really tight. I'm keeping pressure on it because if I start to let it go, oh, see right there? Because I brought it forward a little, it crimped over. And we don't want that. So we're gonna just kind of rotate that back to the right and pull hard to the right again and keep that pressure on. And it's so hard to turn now, but you see all these little kinks? See how it's kind of kinking right there? And if I was to, it would go right back again if I let my hand go towards, relax a little bit and go towards the vise. So I'm taking a tack, oop, 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 and I'm pinning it in the side of my table. You can use a clamp to clamp down this end and clamp it on the top. I just find it's cumbersome as well. So I always usually use like my blocking board that's over here to the right. I use something, I use this a lot when I make cording, and I do it because it is, yeah, that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, why can't I think of the kind of lumber I use in it?
Is it MDF?
No, I am having like a serious brain fart right now. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the plywood. There we go. It's plywood. Gosh. So that's on the side of plywood because it's layered. It's really kind of easy to stick the tack into. So that's why I use that. Okay. And I don't advise that you tack into the side of your lovely table. This is just my workbench and all right, so again, we put the piece of tape on like this because as we roll to the right, I'm rolling that tape on. The person that helps me make cording, he likes to just smash it down and then, but sometimes the tape gets loose then while he's twisting it. So I find that if I twist it on, it then, in the direction that I'm about to start twisting, it doesn't unfurl as I'm twisting. It seems silly, but these are just things after, 20 years of doing finishing where I just have these idiosyncrasies I do because of ridiculous moments like that. It's like, why is this unrolling? So the other reason it's important to glue the fibers at the loose end is because now there's something for all these fibers to twist against. If it's loose, if it just had the fishing line there, the fibers can start to turn within that area if they aren't held together. Now, at this point, I'm pretty much there. There are times where when I twist it, I don't end at the exact same spot as the other one. I hold them both down with my thumb, take out the tack, pick them up. This time, because we're going to be turning counterclockwise, I put the tape at the bottom, put them at the bottom of the piece, hold it over, and just start rolling it back towards myself this time. And we're going to keep rolling it until we over twist it this time. Okay. Over twist, over twist, over twist. And that's because it helps align everything and keep it tight. And now, without giving yourself rope burn, okay, again, tugging with my right hand, and I'm just kind of running it between my fingers, smoothing it. And now I'm just going to loosen my hand a little bit and let it start to untwist all by itself. And there we go. So it's a nice eighth. Yeah, that's a quarter. So about an eighth. Okay, so we have this. So I'm finding it's a little too bright there. Okay. So now we're going to hit the bag. Sort of. Here is our canvas. And so what happened was Robin, she didn't take my advice and tack down the corners when she put it on the bag. And besides that, she used hot glue. And then she came to Cape Cod when it was in the 90s this summer. And when she took it out the back of her car from, she comes from Connecticut. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, and this just fell right off. And she went, oh, that's why we don't use hot glue when we do cording or anything else on needlepoint. Yeah. Because in high temperatures, in cold temperatures, too cold, it'll become brittle. And especially if you don't use high temp, which I only use high temp. So she had already previously cut this. And here is our Land's End tote bag. You can see the little hot glue marks there. And what I noticed when she brought it was that she had made it go out to the border, and so it didn't actually fit within this area. So what I'm going to do when I do this is I am going to turn under those stitches, and then our cording, the reason why I chose this particular cording is because it will extend the original color beyond. Okay, so knowing that I have to make it smaller, And I don't want it to look weird and have a whole lot past here as well. So we are going to be turning this and this all under. So knowing that, I already measured and basically made it so that this piece of hard, heavy interfacing, because it has to be supple enough to kind of bend with the bag. If we tried to use mat board in there, it'd just be way too stiff and potentially pop off even sewn on. So I like to use this more just for its ability to bend with the bag. And it's called, it's, I'm going to make up a supply list for this because I wasn't remembering everything I was going to use tonight. So I'll have that out tomorrow for you guys. And what it is it's not SF. It's 707. It's heavy interfacing. Might just be 70. And you find it in Joann's on the interfacing rack. At my Joann's, they moved it right next to the cutting tables, the cutting areas where you have your fabric measured. And so this way was 5 1/8, and this way was 5 3/4 up and down. And so we're going to put that in first. And here's the kicker. We are using hot glue to tack all of these corners down. All right. But we got to make sure. Okay. And I want to make sure that on the left and the right that, and just worry about the top on this, that we're even for stitches. Okay. And what I mean by that is that you have just as many on each side, which actually I can see I'm just inside the needle point. And I'm going to move that up a tiny bit. Don't worry about down here because you see how it's shifted a little, become unblocked a little bit. And I'm going to try to stay away from that edge because I'm going to be tacking through that edge. Hopefully. This Land's End bag is extra, extra thick canvas. I mean, holy heck, it is really thick. And that's exactly why Robin did not stitch through, because she could not get a needle through it. And I had even said, you know, if you have a hard time, put some pilot holes in. And so when I was going to redo this, I was going to add blue panels on the side and try to have it fit in there perfectly. And I thought, no, I really need to show her how to do it the right way. And that is with just utilizing what we have to work with this canvas. Or, you know, because if I do something too elaborate, she'll never be able to do another one herself. So I'm going to push that up and I'm pulling that over to basically block it by using the interface to hold the shape. And I'm kind of smearing the glue, all right, so that when I go to bend this over, I am not going to burn my fingerprints off. I mean, don't have many left as it is, but it's one way to save your fingers for sure. Okay. Now, because we are turning a lot of the edge over, we're going to have to dart it. up in here, and I'm going just maybe one away. Okay. There's not much left on that one, so I think we're okay. And I'm really just cutting it because these corners are going to get a little weird. All right. Let's see how this, yeah, that's pretty spot on. Okay. So if you were doing like a more of a wicker basket, where you've seen the, some of these people doing them on the tops of these cute little baskety looking purses, I wouldn't necessarily stick with this. I'd do it just like half of an ornament. I'd put foam core, because I don't like mat board. So I'd basically do the first part of an ornament and then tack it on the same way I'm gonna do this. Okay. All right. Now, if I had, which I kind of did, turned it over just a little too much. So this time, I'm going to hold it up and then visually watch to make sure. Now I'll lay it down and press it out. And it can be tough with those wicker ones because, again, you don't want to glue them on. You want to try to at least tack down a few spots. So sometimes kind of running a curved needle through one of the little, yeah, wicker reeds, whatever they're made from, is a good idea. It just is. Even so, I'm going to show you fabric glue that is the only glue I ever use. I use it on my Limoges boxes and pretty much all of the other, and I'm shredding this corner because see how pointy that is? See all that extra? We got to turn that under, and I don't want it too thick. And I totally just bunched that up. So now I'm just going to press that over like that. And we're trying to keep it sort of square. I don't want it to get too rounded and look like it's dog-eared at the top, because that's a lot of canvas. Okay. All right. We're going to do again the same thing. And we're just going to kind of, I'm squeezing that little point together and I'm not pulling it way under. And this is where the cording is going to hide your sins. It's going to hide any little gaps because that's a thick bump, thick enough, and that you could try to put it on without cording on the edge. Sure. I just think you need a little something to polish off that edge. And I'm not saying that you can't glue your cording on. I just want you to tack it occasionally around, because otherwise you run the risk again of it potentially over time popping off, especially if it's a soft bag. I always sew it on when it's something that's soft. Okay, So here we go. Smear that on again. And after our last time, we make sure to check from the front. We got about 2 stitches visual there. Yep. Okay.
What do you ever finish bags that have patches with like that use a binding stitch around it rather than cording? Do you ever?
Well, you could use a decorative stitch, sure. If you feel comfortable doing. Okay, wait. When you say, because there's a, I'm about to put this bag on basically using a binding stitch.
Okay. Oh no, so like I don't know. A lot of like the people who do belts do like a binding stitch or like fold the canvas over and do a binding stitch along the edge of the canvas. Like not like a.
No, I don't ever do. I do everything you're seeing me do here because it just, so even when I do rugs, I don't do that.
Okay.
What I do is, when you lay it over, I'll do a long running stitch to tack that edge down on a rug so that I don't have it popping up under the fabric. But I just like having something to finish over it. It's just how I've done it in the past. I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not how I've ever done it.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just
but
curious.
But I mean, it is a way that you can do it. I also find that when you don't have something to raise this up, when you have this canvas on the back, it kind of goes concave. In the center, it'll kind of bow in. I like to have it look nice and flat and finished. And I just feel like sometimes because of this edging, it doesn't have as nice of body to it, I guess is the best way to explain it. I
Yeah.
even put,
I know exactly what. Now that you've described it, I know exactly what you
yeah,
mean.
okay, good, because it's the same thing with, if you use mat board on the inside of like ornaments, mat board's bendy. So if you go to use a little bit dollop of glue and you push them together, sometimes you'll get a recession in the center. That's why if I use mat board, I put a little spacer in between the 2 pieces to make sure that when I'm pressing down on it, I don't make it go in too far and have that weirdness happen. So one of the things that Robin did is she ran her sewing machine around the edge with just like, standard straight stitch. Don't do that. It's a waste of time. It doesn't help. This canvas is so thick. It's woven. You've just woven more fibers into a pattern on top of it. It's not going to, nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to unravel all the way. Your stitches stop you from losing all this extra canvas. And even if you lose some, like what's up in here, good. You don't want the bulk in the corners anyway. It's not going to unfurl and ruin the stitches. Okay, so here we are. Now here's the part that I'm not sure about. So because this is water, going near the water, she had put on, like she said, I said, so what kind of vinyl is this? And she said, oh, it's like, this is what she said. It's like what my Italian grandmother had on on all of her furniture. And I went, oh, okay. So it's just a plain old, 1 mil or whatever vinyl. And she just knows that she's not going to be very kind to it at the beach and want to have to worry about it. So we're going to give it a shot. and try to make sure that we get a little bit of protection on here for her. And I'm doing the exact same thing. If it starts to look funky when I try to put it on, I'm gonna take it off. I'm cutting darts in it at each corner the same way I do with my fabric that I would put on the back of an ornament. And with squares, it's always just a round. I definitely feel that this is probably why the glue let go as well, is because it was against plastic and it has no tooth to grab against. So I'm going to roll that. I'm going to put that back in the corners because it totally shifted in my hand. All right. Make sure that's going to fit. I'm just going to put a bead of glue on and hope it sticks. I debated on actually putting the I sometimes when I have to do coasters that have faux leather bottoms, I will stitch the cording onto the needlepoint piece first. But I just don't think I can do that with this because it's going to have it's going to be kind of tough to grab the fibers the way I'm going to grab them with the curved needle to tack it on. And I'm just afraid that I'll miss the bag completely or whatever. So I just said, we'll all learn together tonight on what works best with this. And like I said, I actually think you could totally do this bag with just the Fabri-Tac glue, holding down the cording and holding down the applique. But I'm going to show you the right way, and what you decide to try is up to you on what you do. Because I would be mortified if she got this and it popped off again after all of my... What did you do with your hot glue, Miss Robin? Okay. This is actually, so as I'm doing this, I'm pulling this against, so we have a really nice tight fit. Like I said earlier, I only use high temp hot glue, and it actually seems kind of melty against this vinyl, getting good adherence. So maybe that'll help it a little bit. Now, at this point, before you finish doing this last side, make sure you don't see any weird little schniblets that have worked their way inside that make it look bad. I did something with the acrylic tray, or what was it? It was something else. And I saw a white speck. And it was like, no! And I had already glued everything down, and it, yeah, sheer mortification of, great, now that's going to live forever inside of that piece. I forget how I got the piece out. I was able to minimize it somehow. But it's just that, oh, I know what it was. I'd put an overlay of sheer netting. It was the recent, my Easter egg that I had just done, and I put this piece of, what's it called? not chenille, organza over the top. So it's see-through. And there's this little thread in there. So I'm like fishing with a pin from where I know I'm going to be putting the trim piece over it. So if there's a little hole there, nobody's going to see it. So I'm going to dart these corners. So kind of multiple, small. This has got 3 on it because this plastic isn't going to stretch nicely. And I'm going to start with the middle one, I think, to pull it in. Hopefully it'll get nice and hot and kind of melt into place. And then we'll do the corners. Oh, that just pulled down on that. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to kind of reheat this piece from the top because it is plastic. Let's melt it. Why not? Putting a little spit on my finger so it doesn't stick to me. That is the one thing about if you know you're going to touch the glue, do the old trick like Grandma did with the skillet. And I know I'm really dating myself there, but it won't stick. It's pretty good. I think that's about as good as these corners are gonna get. I think this time I'm just going to feather it even more. Just do a whole bunch of tiny, and I'm giving about least 1/8 of an inch away from the needle point when I'm cutting these darts because I don't want to see the darts on the front side. Okay. All right. I don't know if I should do the corner ones first or if I should do, because it didn't work so well on the last side. Just force them all over at once. And then come in. Yeah, there's no glue on those two. Okay, thought so. Okay. Got it. I can feel the glue spider webs forming. If you have an issue with spider webs when you're working with hot glue, it's because you're using multi-temp glue and it cools so fast, it creates those spider webs that annoy the heck out of me. I get them once in a while, but not too much. I really like the AdTech glue gun that I have. Come on. Okay. A lot of it's it's so brittle. It just doesn't want to do what I'm telling it to do. That's why I put a little heat on it there at the end. Now this is obviously a step that you don't have to do. So say you had a leather bag instead of a tote bag. So you have a couple of options. You have to look at what the lining is like inside and whether or not you can sew through it. A lot of leather now is very thin. It's not, if you have a really nice bag and you really want to applique something to it, send it to a finisher. find a cheaper purse. Because, okay, I think that's going to work. What I would have to do to it, you can't reclaim it afterwards. And you can use magnets, but magnets are only so strong. And when the purse flexes, it's not going to stay stuck. It's going to kind of pull away. Leather is supple unless you have one of those really hard, with hard interfacing or have it built in that way. It's just going to be too difficult. And there are plenty of bags out there that you can put these to. There are lots of cute little, now, here could be the rub. Is it going to fit in? Ooh, it fits. Yay. So, because we made it a little smaller, there's a little bit of hot glue on this bag that I have not pulled up yet. So bear with me while I kind of try to degunk this. And 90% of the time, you can kind of work hot glue back off, unless there's a serious nap, like velveteen, that's going to pull off. You can tell that area was really mashed in. If hot glue ever falls on fabric or on anything, let it dry. Don't mash it. That's what will get you, get it stuck in there and ruin your piece. I almost wish it was a little colder out because this would be a little more brittle and would come off. This bag's so tough, let's just scrub it off. We'll use the non-pointy end and see how much we can get off. Look at that, that's almost all of it. There's just that little bit that's mashed in there. All right, is this side? That side's okay. Yeah, we can't hardly see that now. Okay, so I put a tote case that I use to store stuff in, storage container, inside of this to expand the bag because it's got a pleat at the bottom, and it was going to kind of make it nigh on impossible to deal with this like that. All right. I wonder. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off without doing cording. So, if it didn't have this shiny stuff on, I almost think we could do this without cording. Hold on. But the edge won't look right. If you can see it. So, because I have something in here, and this is such heavy canvas, I am just going to very much on the edge, because of this plastic, push that right down in, because I want it to kind of help hold it as I'm going around. And boy, that doesn't want to go in. Okay. I'm brilliant. Missed a step. Here we go. This is the Fabri-Tac. It doesn't say Fabri-Tac on it, but that's because this is from Hobby Lobby. And it would normally say fabric. Hold on. Wait, do I have one? Oh, of course not. Fabri-TAC. It's the same company, made by Beacon, says the same thing. It just, for whatever reason, doesn't have that label on there. So we're going to put some reinforcement underneath this lovely piece. Okay. And I want it on the interfacing, on some of that canvas. And once I'm done with this, whew, that's strong smelling stuff. Once I am done with stitching around this and everything, and tonight, once I've got it all set the way I want, I will be putting a brick on top of it while it dries, because everything adheres better that's weighted on. It's very important that we put something on top of it to make sure that that really sticks. And I know it's okay to put glue on her bag because she already put glue on her bag. If you want to be able to pull it back off again, don't do that part. Okay? If you want to switch it out again, which if you need to switch it out again, more than likely you've been pretty hard on your beach bag and should probably just replace the beach bag too. Retire it. Okay. These are probably sinking right into the plastic of my container inside. I don't care. I promise that the video you get is going to be much, much clearer than the streaming stuff you're trying to watch. And you know, if you want to try something, but you're just kind of not motivated and a little concerned about anything, you are free to get a hold of me and we can kind of just figure out a time and we'll jump into it together if that's what it takes to get you to, if you just need to have that wingman while you're cutting in. I'm more than happy to do that. Because I can work on plenty of stuff and still help other people. Okay. Not too horrible, no? Okay. So now I need all my finger grippers on. I use these very typical paper for general office collating and everything else. And I take a leather piece that I've cut like an oval because this is the driver of the curved needle. Again, I really don't think if you put the brick on it and let it sit overnight and then came back and did this second part with the cording that you would need to do anything but put a couple of tack marks in there. So you don't have to be so afraid of, you know, the curved needle aspect of it. Now, this is a 2-inch. and this is a 2.5 inch. And when they measure it, it's by how big of a piece the metal is before it's curved. All right. I think this is too thick, the 2.5, to go through this. When I tested this, to grab these little bits, we're literally just going to be running that under one stitch. We are not going deep. We're keeping it right on top like so. Okay? Now, I'm debating something while I'm talking to you. No, I'm going to do them one at a time. And it might mean that we go along, and I understand if you have to drop out because you got other things to do. But I'm going to tack this first. You could potentially put the cording on at the same time as doing this. You could. But I think for you to see it clearly, we need to do it in each stage. I have done this and on a leather bag. I have done this, if you've ever seen the Julie Pischke totes that she used to have that came with needlepoint canvas, like she had the special bags that were complementary to it. And those were just like a heavy fiber, and I just ran those, and same thing, right through the very top layers, didn't go deep into it, worked great. I think the hardest thing with leathers is that if it is a composite leather, the potential to pull through it is great. It's a big one. You're looking at taking a chance of, as you pull it through and you're tightening it, it just rips right through that composite. So in something like that, you kind of have to test it and don't put too much welly on it. Just kind of, take it a little easy. I am starting on the sides. Should I? I usually start and end at the bottom. We're just going to do what we usually do. Start and end at the bottom. I just got to bend this bag down a little. The bottom is so thick. So we're going to start right in the middle, and I'm going to grab the needlepoint first. Sometimes I wonder if a GoPro wouldn't be better, because this camera ends up right in my face and can barely see what I'm doing. Okay. So I did a knot where I made a loop and I wrapped it through 3 times. And then I pulled it tight. And then I did the exact same action. It makes a nice big knot. And then I put a little glue on it. I'll show you that again in a minute, because I can't tell you how many times I've pulled it right through. So now there's our fishing line coming out of the bottom of the needlepoint. I'm just going to grab a couple strands here and pull it through. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the needlepoint side, and I'm going to take a big chunk. I'm going to go as far as I can go with that needle. So we're just like taking big chunks and doing a tack. A little tack here, a little tack here. Okay.
And that's because you're relying on the fabric tack, like the
Well,
strong glue that you put on it.
It's more of, I'm going to come back over this with cording, And so but also because that glue is there,
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel like we can just take big steps versus little steps. Let's hope.
I mean, I trust you.
Well,
And then using the fishing line, is there like, is
so
there
the
that versus like something like upholstery thread?
so
Like,
the 6 pound test fishing line, it is heavy enough. It doesn't degrade. It gives you that clear without having to use invisible thread, because invisible thread is evil and it unspools and I hate it.
people.
It is. And
I'm a quilter.
oh,
Every time I use it on a quilt, I'm like, I hate this.
I am never using this again. And yeah, it's just awful. And so, but it hides so easily. It just disappears. Whereas you might see the other. I just pulled some, did I pull some glue out with that? Or is that glue she got on there before? Because that isn't you can't see that Fabri-Tac. It dries clear, clear, clear. All right, so we're gonna go through the corner. And I'm trying to stay right under the needle point because I know there is a big old hot glue glob underneath there, and I do not want to hit that and struggle to pull that needle through. And I'm doing a running thread. I don't knot both, it's not a double threaded. Quilters use it all the time. You make one knot at one end and, all right.
And then are you gonna, like, for corners, I feel like corners are gonna be the first thing of anything that pops off
Right.
of that. Do you like do a few extra stitches there, or
Nope.
just one and then the cording stitches?
One and then the cording stitches. And I'm probably going to do them the same way. Oh, man. Yeah, that's the only way to do this, is the tiny sub-level chunks. I think I trust this fishing line probably a little too much. Because when you look at how much is found in lakes from fishermen that lose it off their reel because it becomes a tangled mess and they get mad and they throw it around, and it just never degrades.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh wow, look at you. You really stood the test of time. That I put probably way too much faith in it. Okay. And really, I mean, because this is I can only get about a half an inch to an inch of really long with the curve. I feel like because this bag is so rigid, it won't, the softer the bag, the closer the stitches should be. Because you don't want the bag to roll and then have this pucker because there's big spaces in between. That's kind of the other reason why I'm not being as fussy about doing close stitches right now. I'm kind of chomping away at it and leaving a half-inch space. So anything that's supple, you definitely are going to want to, but you can because it's just so easy to get the thread in and out of, whereas this is just a monster. And so I'm pushing it through with the middle finger, and then the rubber gripper on my thumb helps me pull. And when I first started using a curved needle, I didn't use any of this, and I made my fingerprints disappear. It was so shiny from just trying to constantly and having the needle pull through and shine up my skin. It was ridiculous. It's like, okay, there has to be a better way. I'm not able to grip this thing. Thus, I was in the quilting section at Joann's getting curved needles, and I saw the rubber grip things, and I went, well, duh. That's smart. And I'm off camera. Almost. All right, so we're here. We just come up through the case. This isn't doing too horrible of a dent in the plastic as I'm going along. I think smoothing it back out will help. If you have a hard time pulling it through, I usually will grab my needle nose pliers, like basically like how surgeons pull needles through, and do that way. Just grabbing underneath, Robin, when you watch this. Hopefully you watch it. Keep coming up into that. I think I just basically grabbed one strand that time. That's funny. And I'm trying to grab like kind of under through the stitches that I rolled under, so that they're not coming out here on the top and I have to try to hide it. Hiding your mechanics is really one of the toughest things you do when you're doing finishing. And that's where, you know, a little trim here and a little, you know, hide my sins there is always a fabulous thing. Now again, if you're just going to use glue, I want you to make sure that you put glue on the back side much closer than I did. Not so much that it's going to squeeze out of like jelly out of a sandwich when you compress it. At this point, that glue's probably dry enough. I could get away with taking off all the other pins, but we'll just err on the side of caution. Because I got a lot on there. Ooh. I see like these cute little bags at you know, like Marshall's or TJ Maxx, and I think, oh boy, that'd be a really cute bag to put, you know, applique something on, or oh, you could cut this part out and slide a canvas inside it. That's another option. If it has a lining on the interior, you could carefully use an X-Acto knife and cut a window out of the piece, especially with those kind of I won't say, yeah, they're kind of faux leather, like the pink ones, and you know, they're not a fabulous grade. Some of them have like a foam back to them. I really think you could do it quite easily, of just not going deep into it and cutting away. You just got to look at what the interior's like. If it has a good lining in it, you can just keep the lining there and potentially even just back it with another piece of something if you needed to. It might take a little engineering, but I think of stuff like that when I go into those stores. I think, oh, I could design a canvas for, no, because I don't know who that manufacturer is, and you know, I show it once and everybody's going to want that exact purse. And I'm not going to go, this will be gone from Marshall's or the other store soon enough. It'll be sold out and I won't be able to find it again. My big ugly secret, I don't stitch. So it's not something I would ever do it for my personal enjoyment. I could, am I gonna put it here? No, I think I'm gonna keep grabbing low. Can I? Having a hard time seeing. Oh, yep, there we are. I'm actually not even worried. This bag is so stiff. If I sew this pocket to this piece, she can't fit anything in it anyway because it's just that thick of canvas. So if you wanted to have a leather purse, you want to use a product called Leather Weld for the glue instead of the Fabri-Tac. And Leather Weld is a product by Tandy Leathers. You can find it on Amazon, places like that. I think I saw it in Hobby Lobby. I used to use that on the back of ribbon belts as well. To put the leather, I always put a leather insert inside the needlepoint so that it would hold its shape, because sometimes you get weird dents. What is with this? When the needlepoint bends, if you just do a long piece and it doesn't have support on the inside like a belt, it kinks as it tries to curve around. So I put, instead of using like fusible interfacing like we did on this on the inside, I would use a very thin suede, and I would glue it in with that leather weld, and it worked like a dream. And then I used the Fabri-Tac to do an initial glue down of the ribbon, and then I would use fishing line like this to go up and down both sides of the edges of the belt to ensure that the ribbon didn't lift. They were really cute belts, and I always made the ends separately, the tabs, so you just slide it on over the end of the belt. Oh, come on. There it is. There. Oof, I'm getting hot. Getting too much exercise trying to get this on here. Jeez. Where's my fishing line? There it is. Sorry, this is the boring part where you sit and watch me hand sew. That's why the majority of people use glue. Come on. There we go. So, I have been gone away from home so much, working, trying to do my new designs and everything, that my dog that I inherited from my daughter, because she got him and he loved me and not her, He's a little Chihuahua mix, and he gets all upset when I'm not home. He whines and makes a general nuisance of himself. And so I thought, okay, I've been gone so much. I'll bring you with me to the studio. So we got here, and we were here for about 45 minutes, and all of a sudden he started jumping up and like stabbing his legs into my legs, his feet into my legs. And I was like, what is the matter with you? You should be here happy. You're here with me. He wanted to go home. I just started laughing. I was like, okay, great. I have a half an hour before class. And you want to go home. You are just like a child. Okay. We're rounding home. Yeah, to making sure I finished on the bottom that time. Right. Now, if you were just using all glue, you'd be done by now. But you wouldn't want to use it as a daily cruiser bag, potentially, unless you tacked it down in a couple spots. When it goes in that easily into the fabric, I'm definitely taking a big chunk. It's harder to get it on the weave, put it in on the weave the opposite direction. Interesting. Oh, I'm off camera. Guys, you gotta tell me. Or maybe you're just gonna wait and come back later.
Off camera there. You had just gone off.
It's like, are you guys sleeping? No.
I am commiserating with you because I tried to sew on an applique to one of these Lands' End tote bags.
Oh, so you get it. Yeah.
And it was I sew a lot, and I've never bloodied my fingers as much as I did that day.
Oh my gosh. So you know what I think the key is? This box inside.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that.
You know?
I have one ready to go. It's a LOB, not a Land's End, the one that I have.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like maybe not today, tonight or tomorrow, but like it's gonna happen in the next week.
Cool. I hope you posted it on Self Finishers, because it is something that if you're willing to tackle it, it's really not going to take you as long as you think. And I really am. So this is the thicker, this is the exact Dritz one that you get in the quilting section, this 2-inch. That's the curved needle I'm using right now. I got some that were thinner profile recently. I put a post on about it because there are a lot of fabrics that it leaves too big of a hole in, but this is the perfect thing for it because it's pointy enough at the end and it's heavy enough you can just drive it right through.
I also bought some of those curved needles that you posted.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Good.
I did. I was like, you wanna know what? I'm gonna give those a go because I don't like the thicker one when I work on ornaments. I just find that it's
Yeah.
too thick.
Yeah. And so in when I do moire or satins to line the top of, there are these terrible Tiffany boxes, 3D boxes that I used to do that you line with moire, but you don't put on the interior, you don't put a piece of cording over the top of it. And when you're going through it, it's leaving this huge hole. And I'm like, this is awful. And it doesn't close in around it afterwards because it's literally breaking the fiber, the thread that makes up the moire. And it just looked horrible. All right. So I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. This is probably a little thick, but it is what it is. It probably would be better with a little bit thinner, but I'd be afraid that as you went around these corners and kind of down under, I don't know. Now I can see the pull marks. I'm putting it on. We're gonna go for it. Again, it's easier to just go, nah, I'm not going to do it because that's more, no. Take the time, do it right, have it look. So what's funny is that the blue that's on the edge is the blue that's in the sparkle of this shimmer. So it's, okay, so this is how I do knots, all right? So I make my loop, then I hold the cross point and I bring it through once, twice, 3 times, let it pull down onto itself. Okay? Probably should put that over a dark spot. All right. So then I do it again, and when I make the loop, I hold that knot under my thumb. 1, 2, 3 again. And then you pull and pull, and you kind of make sure that it's pulling onto that knot. And now you have a nice big knot. And now we put a little bit of glue on it again. You know, it's down so nice. I don't know how much I'm going to go down deep into the bag. But then again, if I don't, you know what'll happen? It'll pull away and you'll see weird canvas and won't look bad. All right. So here we go. Doll needle. You gotta get, I got some for my class of the doll needle. They were too thin. You gotta get the ones that are a heavier gauge for this to work. I always go with, like when I'm holding it, if I was holding this in my hand, the needle point would be towards my hand. I do this for ornaments, anything, pillows, because as I'm pulling that fishing line through, I want to always be entering the cording from the back side so that none of the boo-boos show, that fishing line doesn't show up here. And it will if it's not a shiny fiber. So let's see where the hole is using my blunt end. Okay, there's the, and this is where the beauty comes in. If you just use tape on the end of this and you try pushing this in, you can shred through the tape, then this unfurls and it's a mess. All right, so I'm taking it as far over as I can in my hole and I'm laying it back, and now I'm kind of gonna push that arrow so it's pointing up like this, so it lays in. If you put it straight in, you're going to have a hard 90-degree turn that's going to make that weird, and it's going to be hard to marry it when we come back around. This gives us playroom. Okay. I'm going to try to bring it back down again. And I'm going to grab the bottom this time because I want it to pull. I want to pull it down to the base. Okay. So, you know, I have used a book inside of a bag. I have, or a couple books so that it has a good solid surface underneath it. Okay. So here's our fishing line, right? Yeah, you guys can see that. And I'm coming back on it like this. I want to actually come down here, but that'll be too close and I won't be able to marry it easily. So we're going to come in through that strand, that whatever of our cording, come straight down into the piece. We're going to come back out in the needle point. Okay, there. I want to come back in this time. I'm gonna dig that right down into the bag because I really want to try to keep this pulling all the way down past the needle point. I don't want to keep it on the edge because I want it to tuck it in. I don't want it to sit way up on top, which is kind of what could happen with just using glue. But you can. You just take this Fabri-Tac and you start putting a bead of glue there. Give it a second to get a little tacky, a little less runny, and then start putting it down and then put a pin in to hold it down and keep pushing it down and even just sit and hold it. It's, again, the pressure, having pressure on it is important if you're going to do that kind of gluing. And then once it's dry, go back over it, try to lift it up. If it lifts up, run a bead of glue underneath it. Again, don't run the bead of glue along here if you're trying to fill in again. I want you to approach it from here because I don't want you to try getting any glue on your needle point. Always approach it over the cloth. Okay, that tried to just take down this big point. It tried to, the fishing line was going to strangulate that. Just lift it up a little, make sure it slides into there, and then keep going. You can always tell a cording that is sewn on because you can see where the thread is pulling it down in tighter. And I definitely torque on it a little to make sure it's in, you know, pulling it nice and tight against the fabric. Okay? So with every single one of these, I'm going straight down through the canvas bag again, and I'm sewing it right into the canvas bag. If you're afraid that you're going to close a pocket like this, that you know you're going to stitch right through and catch something underneath, slide a piece of cardboard in between the two pockets, then put the books inside the bag. Keep that buffer there so that you're not going, you know, when you've reached too far through that fabric. Oh, my thumb is gonna hate me tomorrow. That's some serious pulling on this. Now, got a little so you just saw me kind of run my fingers around my nose and then put that on my needle. So what that's about is a little oil from your skin. Slide it down over your needle and it will get rid of all the glue on your needle. Sorry, my phone is dying. And I got this trick from, it's something you do as a photography major, and it's something that you do to fill in scratches on an actual old-fashioned negative if it has any scratches on it. And he said that's something about the oil and how it fills in, and so I just was like, huh. Yeah, I know, it's weird, but it works.
New one for me.
I know, little too much information. Oh, so you were talking about bloodied up the other day. If you ever get blood on needlepoint fabric, take some of your spit and dab it on it and it'll disappear. The enzymes in your spit will get rid of blood out of material. I've done it on a white needlepoint piece that I didn't know I stabbed myself, and I put my finger right onto it and freaked out because, you know, these aren't my pieces. And how am I going to get this out? And yeah, that's how you got to get it when it hasn't dried though, obviously. But it works.
It's one of my favorite tricks.
You see, you know it. Yeah, most people that sew do.
Yeah, I do a lot of hand quilting, and it's inevitable that you're gonna poke yourself.
Oh yeah. I'm a meat and potatoes sewer. I'm not. My grandmother taught, I'm not a finesse at all. My grandmother taught me when I was a kid. I learned on this very ancient machine that took a couple of stabs out of me because I was not careful with where I kept my fingers. And I wish that I had been able to pass that along to her. Because I didn't learn it until another finisher told me about it. Oh man. So I think this is actually going to be really cute. You can use other trims too. They can be flat pieces of trim. It doesn't have to be necessarily cording. And there's a lot of cute ones out there now. It's hard to find them. I find more of them at Hobby Lobby than I do at Joann's. And I think that's sad. But here on Cape, I have a satellite store. I don't have a really nice, huge store. And it's depressing, kind of. No kind of about it. It's depressing. Because when I really need to find something fun and funky, it's not going to be there. Someone was asking me, where do you get, ultra suede and velvet, cotton velveteen? And I said, your guess is as good as mine anymore. Very Velvet, that used to be based in New York, that had the best selection, went out of business 7 years ago because nobody was doing velvet anymore. And it's like, I have Christmas stockings. And they had like every color imaginable. I mean, every shade. They were beautiful. And yeah, sadness.
The garment district in general has just been
Decimated.
decimated. And
Yes.
it's so sad.
It is. And what was it? The fabric place that used to be in Boston now has a place, it's not Newton. It's,
Framingham.
yes.
Yeah, Framingham. It's like Framingham Natick. Yeah.
And it's called the basement. And you can't rely on what they'll have. Every time you go, it's something different.
I know. I live in northern Massachusetts, but I go there often.
Yeah, right? Because you just find, and you go, ooh, I know that's a color that I can use. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get that. Yep. Okay. And, they have some gorgeous silks there. Oh, they're yummy. Yummy, yummy. They did have a lot more, ultra suedes available in upholstery weight, but I find it's just too heavy for most of the applications that we're doing in the tiny work. But I mean, from Cape, it's an hour and a half, something like that from here. In the summer, forget about it. I'm not going. Yeah, not happening. Not happening.
Where in the Cape are you?
I am in Marston's Mills. Used to be exit 5. Now it's, I don't know what mile marker because they changed them all. Right? I love that they left the old, yeah, for all of us antiquated. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, I'm just south of the highway.
Okay.
And if you ever went to Osterville Needlepoint when it was in Osterville or in the mills, that the barn, before it moved over to Mashpee, it was in kind of a barn building in Marston's Mills. That's where I'm sitting, is in the former. And now,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I never went there when I was a needlepointer, because I picked up needlepointing in the pandemic. But I used to go in with my mom when I was a kid.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So Christine is downstairs. She does all of the CBK Needlepoint, who does distributes Scott Church and distributes my stuff. This is her building, and so I'm up in the loft part, in front of the big windows. Oh, come on. But yeah, that's exactly where we are. So you've been here. Okay, I'm pulling this up a little.
Probably 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, the it's pretty much exactly the same, but yeah. Doesn't really change. The Cape doesn't change much.
It doesn't change much at all. We still go to the same restaurants we've been going to since I was like 4 years old.
Right? Where do you usually stay on Cape?
We used to stay in Chatham,
Oh, nice.
but this past summer was the first time in a while my whole family got together and we did Wellfleet for the first time.
Ooh, way
We
down.
Yeah, we loved it. We've just never stayed that far.
I love Wellfleet. It's probably my favorite town down Cape. It really is lovely.
We loved it.
Yeah, I just love the town. It's really quaint. And
There's so many beaches.
oh
like,
yeah.
Because we're national seashore people.
Yes.
But we did some of the bay beaches this year because my mom was having some mobility issues. So
Oh yeah.
we wanted to go to some easier to get onto beaches.
Well, there's plenty, but
There's plenty. Yeah.
but definitely not on the outer side.
No, we had to go bay side.
Yeah.
My poor dad's a former surfer, so he was complaining about having to
Aww.
like miss the waves. He's like, where are the waves?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, where are the waves?
Yeah.
Yep.
My sister and I were laughing though, and we've been going to the Cape for 20 plus years, and we're like, this is the first time we've ever been to the Bay.
After 20 years. Oh my gosh, that's funny. You know, there are people that live on Cape that have never went to the other towns.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get through any of, Osterville? No, I don't go to Osterville. I never go through there. I wouldn't know how to get through. I was like, man, if you don't know the back roads in the summer, how do you get around?
Terrible.
Right? It's like you're just making life hard for yourself. But it was really bad right through COVID. I mean, everybody came to their Cape house. They vacationed down here. And so the traffic was just miserable. But, you live with it. And, we all end up here in weird ways. Definitely wasn't where I imagined myself living when I was young. Because I'm not much of a beach person. I love walking the beach, but I'd rather be on like rocky cliff side. I just think it's kind of prettier. I grew up in Michigan, and we have in the lower peninsula a lot of it's just sand, so it's just like here. And the irony, so many irony. I don't eat fish, and I live where it's what it's known for. It's crazy. All right, so as I'm pulling this, I'm noticing, because on this top area, it's very close to the edge, that as I'm pulling, I'm not going to pull down as hard because it's displacing this needle point and creating a bend in it. It won't be that way once I'm done with it, but let's just not make it so tight that it's going to bend. I'm not like pulling hard on the, yeah, just let it kind of go through and gentle tug and leave it at that. There's no way to keep the fishing line super tight, because as soon as you put it in to go to the next point, it's going to release a little bit. It's just naturally going to do that. I used to try to really, with cording, keep it so hard and, really try to keep it tight as I was going on to the next. And it's like, you know what, Kelly, by the time you get, another 3/4 of the way around, that other stuff's going to have loosened a little. So, don't kill yourself and make cuts. It's really easy to get cuts in your pinky when you're over pulling with fishing line. So what kind of bag are you you're doing the Land's End. Is it a softer material or is it like this?
No, it's pretty similar, but I don't have a pocket.
Okay. That one, yeah. I don't think, if it doesn't have a pocket, do you think you're gonna make it all the way through the canvas? Are you concerned?
Sure. We'll see how much of the canvas I can grab.
Right? We'll see. We're not really all that sure. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I do have another question for you. So if you had a tote bag, like maybe not this stiff of a canvas, but just a tote bag that had handles like this, do you think it's okay to sew a patch over the handles? Like if you had a long and wide patch for this one, for example, that like went over where the
You'd have to lay the canvas on it and look at how it would affect the design on the bag. If it went all the way, like covered from way over here to the opposite side and covered the entire, yes, because the design is going to not infringe. And if you were going to do that and there was a void like here, I would put a piece of fusible interfacing, or not fusible, the heavy interfacing underneath so that it stayed up and didn't go concave on you. Just like the, spacers that I was talking about before. Just because it's, needlepoint is nice to finish because it has body. I find cross stitch can be very difficult because the Ada cloth or the linen, it doesn't block like this does. But there are a lot of things that, because of the heaviness of the waste canvas on the underside, can create voids like that raised fabric that you don't necessarily want raised. Now, if you notice, I kind of twist as I'm going along to make sure that it is the same distance apart, that your twist stays the same, because as you're going along, it naturally wants to untwist. So just make sure that as you're going along that you make sure to kind of roll it occasionally and make sure that it's staying. You don't have one spot that looks like this next to the opposite side where it's really tight, because it becomes obvious once you get it on. It's like, wait, what? How did that, happen? And I don't know about other people have expressed to me the frustration with it because they don't understand why it's happening. And it's like, and a lot of times, come on. What they do is they will tack it on with like little clips and put it on before so it's held in place as they're doing it. But I find you have to kind of twist it and keep it free so that you don't have that problem. It happens a lot more on the round ornaments. As you're going around, it kind of just wants to do it. Not as much on straightaways, but the rounds. And I feel like I'm definitely putting in a lot more stitches because I am kind of running out of fishing line. It's interesting. And I'm pretty sure I always kind of do the same amount. when I unfurl it. Come on. Oh my goodness. I'm lifting that because it was trying to cut that off again, so I needed to make it slide in between. I am beyond thrilled that I finally figured out why my streaming was being stupid and freezing. So happy! Oh, and I'm wearing my infamous cat ear headbands because I forgot my other clip and it kept getting in my face, my hair. If you ever watch my felting videos, I used to wear them all the time, but my favorite is that my kids used to let me walk out of the house while I was working and I'd go to the grocery store and I'd have them on and I wouldn't see them until I was like getting out of the car to go into the store and I'd see my reflection. I was like, you are just really wanting to embarrass me. And they're like, you guys are, yeah, of course. It's like, I did not raise you to be that evil. Yes, you did. It's like, great. You create the little evil geniuses.
So then you were saying that you use like pretty much the same amount of when you unfurl your
Yep.
line, you get pretty much the same amount every time. How like do you ever start and stop? Like with like do you like when you're doing this, do you ever look at a piece and go, yeah, I'm gonna need 2 pieces of fishing line to do this?
Yes.
Or do you try to cut a piece longer?
No, because I do as much as I know I can stretch my arm out to, and that it's not usually about an arm's length is going to be about right, because otherwise it's just too much fishing line to handle. It starts getting weird and floppy and it's like, oh my gosh, you start struggling with it doubling up on itself. And so yeah, I definitely start and stop all the time, do a knot off. I'm not, I doubt I'll make it. And it's always on the cording. And it's just because how you're going, the amount you use as you're going. I'm going way back because, so here's the thing. I'm there with the fiber, okay? I'm bringing that back, putting it in here. That's a 1/2 inch difference because I want that to lay long against that cord to keep it held on. I don't go straight across and go down because it can create a little buckle mark on this side or a little chop mark in it. I want it to help it lay. That's how you get cording to lay down nice and tight to your fabric or your needlepoint, however, whatever piece you're working on. Because see, there's no way I'm gonna make it around there. So I'll end it here at like the corner. And it's just the same way, you knot it off the same way as you would any sewing. I'm just going to grab a little bit of that fiber and bring it up through, and I come back through that loop, make the knot. Then I do it again. But the one thing that I always make sure to do is I don't cut the knot now. I feed it back in to the fiber and have it fabric and have it come back up further down, so it leaves the tail hiding under the fabric, so that if you cut it kind of close, it could unknot. Worked. So that's why I do what I do. Now I just have to remember that I only have this much space. So don't unfurl too much.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, arm's length, here we go. No. Not that I don't. These thumb things are good for more than just over here scratching crusties off the side. I see little webs of hot glue over here. So 1, 2, 3, pull, boop, just like that. All right. Sometimes the hot glue will loosen the knot. Will make the knot pop if I've tried to make too big of a knot and done like extra through it. All right. I'm going to come back a little bit from just start on this side. Okay. Come back up under that corner. At this point, you can throw that extra stitch on the corner, because I have been doing it as we've been going around, of grabbing the needle point. And then come back into the canvas below. Like that. So now you're going to get to see the magic of marrying cording. It is not as magical as you think. But I know people struggle with it, so I'm not saying your struggle isn't real. Not. But it's all about learning to keep them. You're sliding it right under the existing one and right over the existing one, and you just got to kind of work the cording. Eventually you get the feel and you can kind of manipulate the strands. It's easier when you use solid colors, because you don't have to try to make sure you don't have to make sure that the pattern is repeated, which can be a challenge. It's like, wait, that's a double red. No, it's supposed to be white there.
Came for perfectionists.
Yeah, it is. And tricolor? Oy. It's why I don't do tricolor ones, because it's just like, no. I cannot twist it that tight to make that one be in that spot. But you gotta figure out a way, especially on a pillow, because boy, nothing sticks out like a sore thumb than a double color.
Chunky.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna put the last one there, and then I'm gonna knot it. See if I can get that.
So you're like tying it off before you do, like try to.
Yep, I'm gonna knot off the main fishing line so that it stays tight right before it. You don't have to, but I do, because I don't want to make sure it stays where it's supposed to stay while I'm trying to work my magic of marrying them together. Now, where do we decide to put it? Okay. So here's our end. We're going to go a couple past. I'm going to go right there, because it usually takes one to kind of push and make sure you have enough of a tail to slide under, and you're making both of your ends right underneath run right along the edge underneath. So I have bits of scrap fishing line. And about there, I said, yeah. You don't want it too long because you don't have to keep shoving it under, and then then as you're putting it under, it twists, and it's just makes it more difficult to marry. And again, we hot glue the end, because we're going to be shoving this under and pushing it around, and if we don't glue it and the fishing line lets go, now it starts to unravel, and you saw how fast that just spun out. It'll still try to do that even when it's part way in the hole. Okay, and where did I put my orange handles? I don't see my needle noses right offhand, so fingers it is. All right, and again, nice and thin arrow. Sometimes I try to make sure that I make it the direction it's flat in the right way to slide it in under, so when they marry together, because I don't want to have to turn that in there and it doesn't want to turn because it's big and flat. All right, so we know that we have a pretty big hole, sort of big hole right behind that, because I did kind of stitch close. Let's see if we can get that under. And now don't push it straight down in. Glide it right underneath. Bam. Done. That's it. Pull this piece up a little. Pull that down a little. That's it. And now we're going to put a knot through there. We're going to run a piece and knot it off and finish. All right, so we knotted it here. I'm going to pull this down through the needle point. I'm trying to go on sort of on the underside. Okay, fine. I can't do it all in one motion, so I'm going to go in between that one. All right. I'm going to go straight down into our canvas below. Oop, don't hit the arrow because I'm almost moving what we just put in. Where am I? There I am. Oop, oop, oop. Grabbed part of the bag. Sure, when you don't want to catch it, it goes right in. All right, so push that back down again. There's that. I need to grab some fabric, and I'm going to have to grab the blue this time, because if I try to put this deep down under, my thumb can't take it. I'm going to displace that that end. All right. Wonder, can I take it? I can. All right. See that? Right there is the end of the cord. Right there. I can tell that because of how that's kind of popping up. And it wants to go there. So it's all about kind of lacing back and forth at this point. And I still want to make sure that's there. I don't want to keep going in the opposite direction though. Get this up through there. All right. I'm going to put it through the needle point. Come on, if it'll grab it. See, it keeps wanting to just go through the plastic, and I do not want that because that plastic will rip. All right, I'm gonna go through that one. I don't usually go cross like that, but that's the one that needs to be secured down. I'm just not grabbing that the way I want. Do I think that it will pop out? No. But I really want to make sure it doesn't. Because as soon as I say, oh, it's not going to do that, yeah, bam, there you go. It did it. All right. Loop. And I'm going to readjust everybody in a second because it gets a little pulling. Make a long tail again, pull it through, and then we cut it off. All right. Careful not to nip your cording. Okay. And I'm going to take, where's my dowel needle? I'm going to kind of push this back down. And if you're gluing, it's the same way. The only thing is that when you lift this up to push that under, you're going to have to make sure to put some glue on the back side of this part of the cording again. And again, keep it pinned, keep pushing over it, keep making sure that you're getting it tight down to it. It'll help seal the edges all the way around and keep your edges glued down if you didn't get them down tight with the Fabri-Tac on the back side of it. So now as I pull this forward, like the pocket's open, oh, that's funny. I did go through 2 layers. I did. That's funny. I wonder if it's the inside or it's the, I wonder if it's the cording or if it's the underside. Anyway, I only did it once. I probably should have put a thing in there. She's already pulling out. I had a big piece of styrofoam in there that had like popcorny stuff to it. So, and I was like, ooh, that's too big around the bottom. It's making a big bad spot on there. Okay. So there you go. That is how you applique things onto a bag sewing. But again, if you wanted to reinforce this, you could glue as you were glue the cording on and then come back around and do a whip stitch around all of your cording to just make sure to tack it down occasionally. And if you really can't handle it because it is just too hard on your hands, which amen to that, I'm with you, just know that you're not going to, the potential is there. Just tack it down in a couple places. Be safe. Do it, you know, even if it's with a straight pin, just be safe. I don't want it popping off. I don't want to say, yeah, this glue will hold through anything. And, you know, I don't want you to work that hard on something like this just to have you open the trunk and it's fallen off, you know, or you're out someplace and you get home and you go, wow, where'd my needlepoint piece go? Wait, what? And you've shopped all over the place and there's no way you're going to find it. So I hope that this answered some questions for you guys and you get something out of it. Did you have any other questions?
I think I asked my questions as we went along.
All right.
I'm
Okay.
super excited to go give it a try.
And again, anybody who watches this video, if you need help, feel free to email me, message me on Facebook. I'm more than happy to give you guys some help. All right. You guys have a good night. Good night, Susan.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.